Okay. Okay, so review session for final exam, Psychology 1. We'll go over topics and chapters, try to keep up, but this video will be posted on Etudes hopefully in the next day or so. Topic number 1 is on the topic of encoding and the types of encoding. This material can be found in chapter 8 on memory. What I'm asking you here specifically is, do you know differences between effortful and automatic encoding? Chapter 8, memory, encoding is topic. Topic 2, the biology of memory. How are neurons getting better? How are neurons getting better and more efficient? There's a concept referenced in chapter 8 on neurons getting more potential, becoming more efficient from firing over and over again. You need to identify that concept. Topic number 3 comes to us from chapter 14, and it's specifically here, symptoms of various disorders. Symptoms of various disorders. And I can go anywhere in that chapter and identify a disorder and highlight symptoms for you. But I'll help you out with some acronyms that might come up. So here are some acronyms to know. MDD, major depressive disorder. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. DID, dissociative identity disorder. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Those are just some. There are several more in that chapter. Things that come to mind: specific phobias, generalized anxiety disorder, schizophrenia. There's a few others mentioned. Please be knowledgeable of the symptoms and major characteristics. Chapter 14. Topic 4 is on the concept of aggression. This can be found in chapter 13. Generally, I'm looking for the role of testosterone and its impact on aggression. I would add that you need to understand for this question what a correlation is, what a positive or a negative correlation is. So the wording of this particular question both wants to know, do you understand the relationship between testosterone and aggression? And do you know what kind of relationship those two things have? And that can be found in chapter 13. Topic 5, trait theory. Trait theory, specifically the Big Five. This is introduced to you in chapter 12. You need to know what the Big Five are, how they were derived, and what it means to score high or low on a particular inventory. Meaning, Diana scored high on neuroticism. What can we predict about her? John scores low on conscientiousness. What can we predict about him? Topic 6. Types of therapies. Types of therapies. You will find this primarily in chapter 15. I have some on my mind. Behavioral therapies. Cognitive therapies. Humanistic therapies. Psychoanalytic or psychodynamic therapies. Just a fair warning, most students neglect chapter 15 because it's the end of the semester, you're fatigued. Please don't neglect chapter 15. Topic 7. Who is Abraham Maslow? What are his contributions to psychology? Who is Abraham Maslow? What are his contributions to psychology. Likely to be found in chapter 12 on personality, perhaps again in chapter 15. Topic 8, famous social experiments. Perhaps better said, famous social psychology experiments. You have names that are coming to my mind right now. Solomon Asch, Philip Zimbardo, Stanley Milgram. I would be familiar with these gentlemen, and I'd be familiar with the specific experiments that they ran, most of which we either read or watched in class. Topic 9. The concept of destructive obedience. Destructive obedience. What seems to be the recipe to get people to behave in a obedient, destructive fashion. That, I believe, is in chapter 13, social psychology. Topic 10, Sigmund Freud. The man, so a little biography could be beneficial, and theories and related concepts. I will warn you here, you have quite a lot of concepts here. Id, ego, superego, Electra complex, Oedipus complex, various defense mechanisms, various techniques like free association. So you have quite a lot here. So please be familiar with all aspects of Freud's work, referenced in chapter 12 primarily, maybe again in chapter 15. Topic 11, eating disorders. You want to be familiar with all 3 eating disorders. Reminder that most people know the 2 primary ones, but we discussed a 3rd eating disorder introduced in the DSM. Topic 12 comes to us from chapter 8 on memory, and here it's various memory aids. Various ways an individual can improve their memory. Hierarchies, peg word systems, rehearsal, chunking. There's a lot of tools mentioned to enhance memory. You want to be familiar with them. Key terms can definitely benefit you. Topic 13 comes from chapter 14. It's on suicide, suicide rates, including differences between men and women, which we may have talked about, and differences in ethnicity, which we did not talk about. There's a box, I believe, in chapter 14, appropriately titled Suicide, with data, figures to review. Topic 14, who is Carl Rogers, and what is his contribution to psychology? Who is Carl Rogers? What is his contribution to psychology? Topic 15. Carl Rogers' topics come from chapter 15 primarily. Also chapter 12 on personality. So you're likely to see Rogers in chapter 12 and 15. Topic 15. Terms like prejudice, stereotyping, racism, discrimination. There's a whole section on bias. That is chapter 13. Important that you know the differences between these terms. These terms are often loosely thrown around and used interchangeably, but they have specific meanings. You want to know them. Topic 16, types of social influence. Types of social influence. There's a section in chapter 13 that discusses how we're influenced by others. whether we're influenced by the information they give us or whether we're influenced by the need to fit in. And there's two terms to describe that. Types of social influence. Topic 17 is a case example of a mental health disorder in which you'll be asked to give the most appropriate diagnosis. So it looks like a 4 or 5 line description, and I'm going to ask you, this sounds most characteristic of which disorder? What is sometimes called a vignette, a little window into someone's life, and you provide a diagnosis. Topic 18, another Sigmund Freud question. And that can be primarily found in chapter 12, perhaps again in chapter 15. Topic 19, various mental health professionals. Just to give you a vivid example here, I'll read you the answers. LCSW, LMFT, psychiatrist, licensed clinical psychologist. Those were literally the answers, A, B, C, or D. You just don't know what the question is. That can only be found primarily in this week's lecture. Unlikely to find the details in the textbook. Topic 20, group performance, or I should say performance in groups. Chapter 13 has a great section on how people respond when they're being watched, when other people are being lazy, when they work in groups, when everyone in the group thinks the same thing. So I would review the key terms that can be found in the latter parts of chapter 13 on group behavior. I can give you some examples that we talked about. The bystander effect. There's a concept called social loafing. There's a concept called social facilitation. A concept called groupthink. All of these were referenced in the latter part of chapter 13 on group behavior. Topic 21. Another trait theory question, or trait perspective, again on the Big Five. I believe that would be the second question dedicated to the Big Five. So an investment in Big Five review should benefit you. I've also noticed that with Freud now, that an investment in a Freud review would get you at least more than one question correct. Topic 22. Medications for various disorders and the neurotransmitters they affect. Medications for various disorders and the neurotransmitters that they affect. These are undoubtedly to be found in chapter 15. Topic 23, the medical model. Pros of the medical model, advantages of the medical model. Negatives, cons of the medical model. Arguments against the medical model. And arguments for the medical model. And I kind of want to help you out here a little bit, which is, we did discuss arguments against the medical model. What we didn't really talk about were, and I think we did, we mentioned some of the brutal treatments that came before the medical model. So you want to review that material in chapter 14 as well. Before the medical model, we had a different model, sometimes referred to as the demonological model. You want to know why that's not a great thing either. Everyone clear? There's a good little paragraph or two on the way we dealt with mental health historically. So reviewing that whole section should benefit you when you get to this question. Topic 24. Another aggression question. This time, the relationship between frustration and aggression. That comes to us from chapter 13 as well. Relationship between frustration and aggression.
Will be correlation too.
Not necessarily. In fact, in this case, there's a principle referred to as the frustration-aggression principle. Being familiar with that will be beneficial. Topic 25, famous social psychology experiments. And I believe this is the second investment in a question like this. Ash, Milgram, Zimbardo. Chapter 13. Topic 26, also from chapter 13. Small steps leading to larger compliance, or smaller compliance leading to larger compliance. We saw this as a recipe in several of these studies, and also in some of the atrocities of World War II. Small compliance leading to bigger compliance. Topic 27. Types of forgetting. Chapter 8, types of forgetting. You're likely to find this material towards the end of chapter 8, types of forgetting. Topic 28, terms like obsessions, compulsions, delusions, hallucinations, alogia, anhedonia, abolition. These were generally terms to describe specific symptoms of several disorders. Obsession, compulsion, hallucination, delusion, alogia, anhedonia, abolition, and there's one more, catatonia. Topic 29. Topic 29 is related to limits of memory. Limits of memory. For example, we talked about long-term memory, short-term memory, sensory memory. Each seem to have a different length of time or capacity. You want to review that for each. Sensory memory was very fleeting. Short-term memory has some limits to it. Long-term memory had some different limits to it. That's topic 29. Before I move on to topic 30, can you verify that we're still recording? Red light still on and recording?
Yep,
Okay.
18 minutes.
All right, on to topic 30. Another Freudian question. Another Freud question. This now would be number 3. So again, an investment in some of Freud's concepts, ideas from chapter 12 would be beneficial. Topic 31 and topic 32 will test your knowledge of chapter titles. Chapter titles. We've done a chapter on memory. We've done a chapter on personality. We've done a chapter on social psychology. We've done a chapter on psychological disorders. We've done a chapter on therapy or treatment. Having a sound understanding of these chapter titles will benefit you for these 2 questions. 31 and 32.
Only chapters done the second half.
Yes, that is correct. Only chapters from the second half.
Literally
of
just
the
the
course.
chapter titles.
Right. Topic 33. I'm going to give you just famous names that have come up in the second half of the class. You want to be familiar with these people. Okay? First one is Allport. A-L-L-P-O-R-T. Rogers. Maslow. Bandura. Ebbinghaus. Ebbinghaus. Freud. Jung, spelled with a J, J-U-N-G. Horney, spelled horny. Fundamentally, that's it. So I know there's at least one or two questions that just want to make sure if you recognize who these people are in reference to their contributions. Topic 34. Freudian techniques. So, specific techniques that Freud used in his therapeutic practice. So, you have things like dream analysis, free association, defense mechanisms. I would go and review those concepts. Even something like projective testing. Topic 35, another Freud question. That's chapter 12 or 15. Topic 36, another social psychology experiment question. Again, the work of Solomon Asch, Stanley Milgram, Philip Zimbardo are the primary ones. I would add to this that we also talked about the fast food hoax. That was one of our discussions where we looked at that. We also looked at the bystander effect. So familiarity with those will probably benefit you generally. Topic 37. Another question on professionals in mental health. So here we're talking LCSWs, MFTs. I won't ask you about income. I'll ask you about function, like what they do, what they're good at, what their training is, what their education might be. And that again all comes from exclusively this week's lecture. Topic 38, famous psychologists again, of the list I gave you. That list I gave you of famous psychologists, it's just a question and one of them is the answer. Topic 39, memory aids. I believe this is the second time we're on this subject. Chunking, serial position effect, deep processing, hierarchies, peg words. There's so many here to go over. A reminder at this point is key terms will benefit you on this exam, whether I ask you directly or indirectly. So reviewing key terms is helpful for these exams. Topic 40. Another famous social psychology experiment question. I believe that's the third time that such a topic has come up. Third time. Which makes sense given the three primary experiments of Solomon Asch, Stanley Milgram, and Philip Zimbardo. Topic 41, a Freudian question. Here it's a quote. Being able to completely understand this quote. So I'll give you a quote. You want to see what he's talking about. I believe the quote is also in the book.
It's a Freud quote.
Yes. Topic 42, trait theory or trait perspective. This comes from chapter 12. Knowing what are traits, knowing what is trait theory, knowing if it's biologically based or if it's socially based. So review trait perspective and review the concept of what is a trait. Topic 43, attribution theory. Attribution theory. This was part of our discussion in chapter 12 on personality, or perhaps, chapter 13 on social psychology. And we also talked about the fundamental attribution error. So a review of that material will benefit you for this topic. Topic 44, characteristics of disorders. I might ask you, what are some characteristics of schizophrenia? What are some characteristics of anxiety? What are some characteristics of PTSD, OCD? You really don't know where I'll go with that, but you want to know disorders well enough to know characteristics of it. Topic 45, neurotransmitters and the disorders they seem to be correlated with. Neurotransmitters and the disorders they seem to be correlated with. This will be found in chapter 15. You'll learn that depression seems to be related to a neurotransmitter. You'll see that hyperactivity or mania seems to be related to a neurotransmitter. You'll find out that schizophrenia seems to be related to a neurotransmitter, and that can be found in chapter 15. Topic 46, key terms from the memory chapter. Key terms from the memory chapter. There were many in that chapter. So again, you can look at mnemonics, hierarchies, priming, the misinformation effect. I'm being purposefully vague here to get you to go review those terms, and it'll benefit you elsewhere as well. Topic 47, central assumptions of various personality theories. The main assumptions of different personality theories. This can be found in chapter 12 titled Personality. Specifically in the first few slides, there's a table I gave you, and the table shows you psychoanalytic assumptions, psychodynamic assumptions, trait theory assumptions, humanistic assumptions, and social cognitive assumptions. So here you just want to review major theories in personality, chapter 12. Topic 48, professional ethics. Directly related to this week's lecture. It was discussed both on Monday and this morning. Professional ethics. Topics 49 and 50 involve recognizing famous psychologists. And primarily, they can only be psychologists we have either read about or discussed in the second half of class, and psychologists that I've already given you pictures of. I think off the top of my head, I can assume in the second half of the semester we've talked about Freud. We've talked about Carl Rogers, Abraham Maslow, Bandura almost always comes up. You can look at the neo-Freudians that were briefly mentioned, like Jung and Horney. I think that fundamentally is it. So I'm going to show you two of those 5 or 6 people I just mentioned. You want to recognize them based on what
We
they
don't
know.
need to recognize Ash or Milgram or any of
No,
my face.
no, I have not given you those pictures. We may have discussed them, but I didn't give you those pictures. And those are 50 general topics for the exam. I'm going to pause the video